talk a little bit about Chapter 2. Chapter 2 covers two main topics. What is a school and what is it for? So let's look first at what is a school. When we talk about a school, there's really a big primary underlying debate, education versus schooling. So education is human growth. It is experiential. It is understanding ourselves and our relationship in the world. When we look at schooling, we're talking about a more formal, uniform, possibly mandated, institutionalized environment where learning hopefully is facilitated. So there's going to be this building of culture. And that's why it does take a while to establish a culture. That's why at the beginning of the year we have to review routines and we have to get our students acclimated back into school life and get them back into the culture of the school. And each school is going to have a unique culture. And within that school culture, each classroom, as you have experienced, will also have its own unique subculture created by the individual teacher and students in that room. And so there's this process of socialization. And of course, this will also play into our future discussion that we have on philosophy of education. But just breezing through this subject, looking at competitiveness, rewards, social reconstructionalist, and democratic reconstructionalists and economic reconstructionalists. These are going to be one of things that you're going to want to pay attention to as you go through this chapter. With culture, we're also going to have a discussion about curriculum and how are we going to decide what is covered. And of course, that's a whole nother chapter that we'll cover called What is Taught. But there's this whole awareness that is a major piece. And so flipping over to the second part of the chapter, what is a school for? And this is a huge debate that we'll also revisit when we talk about reform and when we talk about philosophy of ed. But understandably, you're going to argue that a school is for intellectual purposes. And that might have been the first thing that popped into your mind, and the building up of the intellectual capacity and intellectual capacity. But then you might also think about the social purpose, and we talked about acclimating and getting you back into that school culture. So there are social purposes that are taught at school, and we think of these mostly in the younger formative years. And we think about social purposes such as doing your best and sharing and being kind, and not only that, but being punctual and how to be a good student socially. Then there's also economic purposes, because if our country fails to produce this intellectual capital, then we're going to fall behind other countries. And so economically, we need to invest in education in order to be a sustainable culture, a sustainable country. And then of course, what about political and civic purposes? If we do not educate our citizens, then they will not be able to read, they will not be able to be informed. Will they be concerned about voting? Will their basic needs, human needs, be met? And so all of this comes into play when we look at what is a school in this chapter and what is it for. I hope you enjoy the chapter, and I'll see you on the discussion board.